Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I've got another book review for you guys. Today I'm going to be reviewing One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This I've seen a lot on BookTube. Just to kind of give a quick synopsis, I feel like the best way to describe this is actually someone on BookTube used this reference and I thought it was so clever. If I figure out who it was, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll link them down below. But basically they said it's basically The Breakfast Club, or The Breakfast Club if somebody died during it, which is pretty much like the best way to describe it. Basically it involves four main characters. So you have Browen, Nate, Addie, and Cooper. And then you have like some other people kind of going around. But the main people are those. They were present in detention when this kid dies, and he like ran a gossip site. And basically the reason that they are considered suspects is because in like his drafts for what was going to be posted on the gossip site next, it was all going to be things that could have damaged their careers. So it basically gave all of them a motive as to why they would want to kill him. But basically that's just a quick synopsis. This is full of spoilers, so if you haven't read the book yet, I wouldn't recommend continuing this video, especially because I did enjoy it, and I feel like it really does ruin it if you know what's gonna happen. So I wouldn't like watch this. Maybe read it first and then watch this. If you have read it or you're just not gonna read it and you're curious, then just keep on watching. Alright, so first off, some of the things that I loved about this book. I loved the way that the romance was handled in this book. So the romance involved Browen and Nate, I think it was Nate. Basically the really smart girl and the hold on, I'm gonna check. Yes, it was Nate. So the smart girl and kind of the criminal guy, like kind of rough around the edges. I think the reason I liked this romance so much was because sometimes with YA books, this is actually something I had an issue with in the Becca Fitzpatrick book I just reviewed, which I will link up below or above, shameless plug. But I found with a lot of young adult books that the minute a romance is kind of introduced, the rest of the plot is just like taking a back seat. It's all about the romance and nothing else really matters, which I mean is fine, but personally, I just find myself getting more annoyed with it than I used to. And one of the things I loved about this book was, while there was romance in it, it didn't take away from any of the other plot. All of the rest of the characters still got a decent amount of limelight. There wasn't this like immense focus on Browen and Nat in comparison to the rest of the characters just because they were like trying to date, which I really appreciated. I thought that was great, the way that she kind of handled everything. As well, another thing I liked was the concept was so different. I've never heard of a concept like this before. Maybe that's just because I haven't been reading that much YA until recently, or I'm just kind of like pigeonholing myself, but let me know if you guys do agree. I just feel like I haven't read something like this, at least in a while. And I just kind of appreciated it, I guess you could say. It was definitely something different, especially in the young adult category. I just felt like this was like super rare. Also, another thing I liked was the fact that I genuinely had no idea who the killer was for like the first 75% of the book. I will say though, like one of the things I didn't like was when they kind of introduced the theory of who could have killed them. I was like, ah, shit, like that's totally what it is. Which, if they hadn't added that, I don't think I would have known until they revealed it. But I get why they had to kind of, or why she had to put that in a bit there. But yeah, for like the first 75%. No clue. Like literally I was like, I don't know. Also, I just felt like it was such a fast read in a really good way. I'd read this on a plane and I think it took me literally like an hour and a half, which is great considering I literally opened it and did not step aside from it at all. It was literally just page or beginning to end. I read the whole thing in one sitting. I just felt like the tone of the book was really interesting. It just kept like there were no slow parts, and I felt like it kind of reminded me a lot of like Gossip Girl or what's the other one? Primarily Gossip Girl. It kind of had that Gossip Girl air to it with the part when those anonymous updates to the website were going out. I loved that. I thought it was such a clever way to kind of keep things interesting. And I just felt like there wasn't a point in the book where I ever got bored or felt like there was just any sort of filler. It just felt like from the beginning to end there was just constant flow, constant just entertainment, I guess you could say, which was really interesting or appreciated. Whatever. Alright, so moving on to the things I didn't like. These aren't necessarily things that, like, I don't want to say these are things that are like deal breakers. These are just kind of things I personally didn't like about the book, but overall I loved this book. I would recommend this book to like anyone and everyone. But there are things that I feel like could have been changed. I think the first thing was the minute that they did hint that it was Simon killing himself, I immediately was like, okay, that's what happened. Like, Simon totally killed himself. Though, I will note, I had no idea that it was going to turn into something where Jake and the girl were involved. I had no idea it was going to involve that. I just thought it was Simon killed himself and he somehow orchestrated it so that there were, like, updates on Tumblr and stuff, but that wasn't it. So I kind of knew a bit, but there was still stuff that I literally had no idea was going to happen until I was reading it. But while I feel like that was like cool that I didn't know, I feel like the boyfriend's involvement was so far-fetched. Jason, I think his name is? Yeah, or no, Jake. I felt like that was so unbelievably far-fetched considering that him and Simon weren't even that close. It just felt so ridiculous. I don't know, I feel like towards the end it kind of went from Jake seeming like, oh, he's a bit of a control freak to, oh my god, he's a psychopath. I felt like that was just a very big jump. I don't think it would have been as insane if they had kind of given a bit more kind of character development, but I mean, obviously if you'd done that, then you kind of would have known, so I feel like it's kind of a double-edged sword. You kind of choose one or the other, but that is just something that I kind of was like, is that really something that actually could have happened? I don't know. And I also felt like it was kind of a cop-out where it's like, oh, like, everyone's okay. It was the boyfriend that they broke up anyway, so it's all good. As well, this is kind of like a small pet peeve I have with a lot of YA books, and it's in this book, which I just have to mention it because it would just be pretty biased if I mentioned it in the Becca Fitzpatrick one that I clearly didn't like at all, and then didn't mention it in this one. But the normalizing of cheating, I just felt like it's in so many YA books. It's not just this book, but I just feel like it's really unnecessary for most plots. Like, for this book, like, what's her name? Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Addie? Yeah. Addie did not need to cheat on Jake. Like, it did not push forward the plot at all. I feel like there could have been another reason as to why she, broke up with him. Because, or even if you were going to keep the cheating, if you're going to keep it, there was no kind of consequences or moral, like, just the kind of, the way it was painted was kind of, oh, you cheated, that's shitty, we're gonna move on to something else now. I just felt like there was no consequences, there was no moral, and if there was, like, Jake kind of being like, what the hell, like, what's your problem, it was kind of put off as him being, like, super controlling and psycho, when in reality, if you get cheated on, like, you're gonna be pissed. Which I get that he was supposed to be, like, crazy and controlling, but I feel like him reacting to getting cheating on shouldn't have been attributed to his psychotic behavior, if that makes sense. Another thing that was annoying was another trope that was in it was the whole, like, oh, I'm not good enough for you, with Brown and Nate. So Nate the entire time is like, oh, I'm not good enough for you, I'm the black sheep, I don't have a lawyer, I'm poor, da-da-da, which is like, okay, fair enough, but, like, everyone's trying to help you. And considering that they weren't all friends before, I literally was like, why is this guy acting like they owe him anything? Like, the entire time he was just, oh, poor me, like, I'm the black sheep, da-da. It's like, what do you expect them to do, though? Like, get you a lawyer? Like, it just felt, like, so extra, and when they went, like, to those extra miles of, like, getting him a lawyer and doing all of this stuff, like, he was so, like, I don't need this help. It's like, okay, well, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't complain that no one's helping you, and then when you get help, like, not take it. It just felt, like, kind of, like, okay. Also, I kind of get that they didn't really want to focus too much on the teacher, but I felt like it was so weird that the police just kind of were like, oh, we're just not really going to pay attention to the teacher at all. For a hot minute, I thought the teacher was involved because of how much they were just ignoring him. I was like, is no one going to, like, note that the teacher was in detention with them all? Like, what? That was something that for a good hot minute, I thought that he was somehow involved in it. I think, like, my thought was, what did I think it was? Oh, I thought that maybe the teacher had cheated on his wife or something, and, like, Simon was going to put something out about it, but obviously I was dead wrong. But I felt like that was something that, I just feel like there should have been a bit more attention on the teacher. As well, the last thing I didn't like, which I feel like I kind of have to accept that these, like, weird things are going to be in YA, but the cafeteria kissing scene was so extra and cringy. I just remember reading it and being like, we were so close to having no cringe, like, so close to no cringe in a YA book, and here we are. You had to do it. Though overall, I feel like I really enjoyed this book. It's actually one of the first books in a while that I was thoroughly impressed by, entertained, and didn't know what was going to happen, which was really great. I also, in comparison, I read this before Genuine Fraud, and I liked this a lot more than Genuine Fraud, even though with Genuine Fraud there was that same sense of like, I don't know what's going on, like genuinely this is kind of weird, in the sense of usually I am able to pick up on what's going to happen. So that was nice about this book. I also appreciate how kind of different it was, and I really, really, really do appreciate how much the romance was just not at the forefront for the first time in like a bazillion books that I've read. But overall, I would definitely recommend it if you haven't read it already. If you haven't read it and you sat through this whole review and you kind of feel like it's a little spoiled, I would read it regardless, because, I mean, even, like, Nate and Browen's romance is really cute. But I thought overall it was just a really good book. I enjoyed it. I'm actually going to check out if she's written any other books, because I did really like her writing. But overall, if you guys enjoyed this video, then feel free to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. As well, if you read this book, let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. As well, let me know if you guys want me to review any other books. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.